Hey, what's up guys? In this video I'm going to be going over and talking about a list that I compiled, and it is the 5 most common pitfalls for beginner EDM producers, people just starting out. And this is mainly from my own experience when I started out at the ripe age of 14, which was 16 years ago. These are the traps that I got into, and it took me a while to kind of break away from those, and I really advanced once I ditched these kind of things that I'm going to go over. So, got my list over here. First one I have is discouragement. You know, you first open up Ableton or FL Studio or whatever, what have you, and you're just like, whoa, you get overwhelmed, you get discouraged, you're not immediately making the bangers that you want, and you kind of compare and you're like, ugh, this sucks, and I'm not getting anywhere. Basically, it sounds like Toys R Us. And you know what? It's supposed to sound like that when you're just starting out. No one, their first year, or, well, I shouldn't say that. No one in their first hour will make anything that great. You're definitely not going to be finishing a track. And you're going to be generally confused and overwhelmed. But the idea is to chip away and just figure things out. And every time you figure some out, you get a little drip of that dopamine, you get excited, and that's what you're striving for. You want to do that. You're supposed to be discouraged. And when I started out, there wasn't a whole lot of tutorials online. There definitely wasn't YouTube. And all you had was the manual, and no one read it. So basically, yeah, you just open it up and you'd be like, oh, okay. And which leads me to my next pitfall, which is pass or gas. And what that stands for is pass is plug-in acquisition syndrome, and gas is gear acquisition syndrome. Starting out, what I would do is, you know, I was using FL Studio, well, back when it was FL, and I would just, you know, get this rotation of VSTs, whatever like was the new one. Like I went from you know, South 1, I couldn't quite figure it out. So then, without bothering to learn that or develop any theory on synthesis, I just moved on to another one, hoping that something in there would click. I moved on to Massive, Zeta Plus, what else is there? Zebra, all these plugins, and you know, there's more and more now. And what you do is you just go from plugin to plugin, hoping that something clicks, and that you'll understand it better. It's not how it works. That's not how it works with EQs or compressors or anything like that. What I absolutely recommend you do is learn the tools first before you start shopping around and trying more advanced, quote-unquote advanced things. Especially with Ableton 10, just stick with wavetable. Wavetable has oscillators, wavetables, filters, modulation, envelopes, LFOs. You learn all those concepts, you can translate that to other synths. I recommend that you just stick with the Ableton EQ, Ableton compressor, learn those, get the fundamentals. If you must, a good option would be just get Serum, learn Serum, things like that. Don't buy hardware gear thinking that it'll save your life, and all of a sudden, bam, you're gonna start, you know, making music. That was a common misconception when I was coming up on the forums, back when there were forums. It's like, oh yeah, just buy a Moog. You gotta buy a Moog, or else, you know, yeah, if you buy a Moog, instantly you'll be like, you know, freaking Fred Legrand or whatever. You know, just don't do that. Master the tools first. Figure out what a filter does. Figure out what an EQ does, how an EQ shapes the sound. Don't believe what people say. The EQ, the Ableton EQ, is pretty top notch. it is mastering grade. It is very high quality EQ. Learn that, and then you can move on to the FabFilter stuff, wave stuff, whatever. Get into the console emulations if you must, but don't have a bloated VST folder and don't have every single DAW. Of course, the freedom of choice for your DAW or your main program. Give each one a try. Get the demos of each one. Maybe you like Cubase more. Maybe you like FL Studio more. Maybe you're gonna be cool like me and us and Rock Ableton. I think each of those is great, but just stick to one thing and learn, because then you're just spinning your wheels and it's not good. Okay, number 3. This is something that I did a lot, and that was preset surfing. So I had an idea of a sound in my head, and I would go through so many presets looking for that sound. And it took me a while to realize it's just a complete waste of time. And it's one of those counterintuitive things that's not going to help you. Of course, if you find a preset and it inspires you, and you're like, hey, I can use this, I can tweak this. That's also something important, tweak. But hey, I can use this. This is a cool germ of an idea. Something clicks in my head, and you want to use it. That's fine. But if you're looking for, the exact sound of I don't know, the song from Blade, you're not going to find it. Well, maybe there's a certain preset for that. It's a little joke. Anyway, don't just go through presets and buy presets and just go through them to try to find the sound that you want. You pick a sound that's close enough or that inspires you. You're not going to find the exact kick that you want, but you'll find a kick that's close or something you can work with. And that's one piece of advice for you, and that dovetails in the previous one, where it's like you got to learn your tools, learn how to shape that kick, learn how to, add more of a transient to it, learn how to add a bass to it, layer it, etc., etc. It's all about learning technique, and not so much trying to find the exact sound, because it's never going to happen, and if it does, it's very rare. Something else that I did, and this is something that can hurt you. That is being too loud in terms of sound pressure levels, like volume super loud. Like you're working on a track and you can't hear the hi-hats that well in the mix, so you turn it up so you can hear it, but you turn everything else up. It's counterintuitive. You want to make music and experiment kind of quietly, because it'll just burn out your ears super quick. Like I remember having my headphones just unbelievably loud working on music, and your ears kind of panic and they shut down. You get ear fatigue. They start to ring. You get hearing damage also. You want to make music quietly, and if there's no clarity from what you're hearing in your ears, and you turn it up and that solves it, that's not good. You want there to be clarity and a differentiation of all the sounds, and you want it to sound good thequiet, because if it sounds good quiet, it will sound amazing loud. But if it sounds bad quiet and it sounds good loud, then there's something going on, and that's not good. And if your ears shut off after like half an hour of just blasting them with sound, then you have to stop, and then you get in this trap where you're like, I can't even hear what I'm doing anymore, and you want to be able to work on music for as long as you can, because then you learn. You know what I mean? Like, you don't learn something in half an hour experimenting. And my final pitfall is realizing that it takes time. It takes time, it takes a lifetime, it takes decades, it takes a while, and you're constantly learning new stuff, new techniques, and ways about doing things. Styles change to get inspired by new things, and it's all about little steps. Little steps. Your first little step is dragging and dropping I don't know, a song into the Ableton timeline. That's your first step, right? You did it. You dragged in an audio file. All right, you've mastered that. You can do that with your eyes closed now. What's the next step? Chopping it up, adding a filter, discovering how things work, how to zoom in and out, using the sampler, using the drum machine. These are tiny, tiny little victories on the way to learning everything, like to learning how to work with computer music. Tiny, tiny little victories along the way, and it's all about success. Tiny little successes. It's not like you don't gauge your success by the track once it, like your first track that you do, right? No, the success is, I don't know, making an awesome bass line with MIDI and wavetable and the filter, and adding some like tube distortion, and then adding some EQ, and just exploring and not being afraid to just try things, right? Put a cabinet thing on there, the amp, you know, pan it, double it, add a chorus. Who's gonna care? Give it a try, see what it sounds like. Add a phaser. Beatbox into your computer microphone and then translate that to drums, and just do a bunch of crazy shit. And you never know, you might stumble upon something that makes your style unique. And people will be like, "Hey, how'd you do that?" And that's success, in my opinion. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Links in the description. Hope you learned stuff. Take care and have a good one.